How to do medical legal reports, part 5. Here's some handy tips. First one's causation. Often you have to determine causation. Was this injury actually caused by the accident? This is actually quite hard and requires a detailed look at all the documents and paperwork you're being given, usually from the treating doctors, the GPs, specialists. So it requires a so-called forensic examination of all the documents beforehand. Basically, it comes down to gaps. Think about gaps. So there's an accident, and before that, there's a long time before they had actually seen the doctor. They hadn't seen the doctor for a long time before that accident. So most likely injuries from the accident were caused by the accident. There may have been a long time ago that they had, say, sustained a shoulder injury. They've had treatment, surgery, and it's settled down. And there'd be a long gap. So most likely that shoulder injury from a long time ago is not caused by the accident. But if it's only a short time here, a few weeks or maybe a month or two, and they're seeking treatment, say, for that shoulder, then most likely it wasn't caused by the accident, or at most aggravated or exacerbated. That is made worse by the accident. So these are important things to look at. After the accident, if there's a long gap before you get treatment, okay, some people may wait a week or two or a month at the most, but if you wait a long time, then it's hard to understand why someone in pain or with a lot of worries about an injury would wait a long time for treatment. So you'd have to suspect it wasn't related to the accident. Now, most medical legal reports occur about 1 to 2 years after the accident. So a lot of so-called minor injuries from it, as per the natural pathophysiology of such minor injuries, would long settle down. So by the time the medical legal report. So you need to think about that. Why is it still symptomatic? Doesn't really make a great deal of sense if it's a minor injury. Even if it was a major injury, say like a fracture, in my area of expertise, fractures can heal. And some people who don't have much experience with them think that should heal at 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, but in fact they can remain symptomatic for much longer. So say for fractures, they may be symptomatic still at this period of 1 to 2 years. Okay, so that's causation. It can be a very difficult issue to consider. You need to be patient, look through the documents carefully. Next thing, inconsistencies. Now here's the basic thing to think about inconsistencies. We know in medicine that the history needs to match with the physical exam, needs to match with the imaging and the investigations. Let me give you an example. Someone's got a shoulder problem, so they report a lot of shoulder pain. Physical examination, they can barely move the shoulder. But imaging and investigation, say MRI, shows barely any pathology at all. Maybe a little bit of bursitis, no tiny tear of the rotator cuff. So there's a lack of consistency between these. So you need to think, do they actually have that injury of the shoulder? So they all have to link up. Now, another part of this is, during your examination, you're a clinician, you're experienced, you can draw upon all this experience. We all know that you observe the patient or client very carefully. And often you can get to diagnose by the end of the history. Physical examination is just a formality. I know surgeons don't like doing detailed histories, but they can still observe and get an idea. So you can work out what's going on from the history. Now the clients may be reporting all sorts of symptoms during the history, and may be reporting it, but demonstrating normal movement, say of the neck, back, shoulder. And when they come to physical examination, they seize up, they can barely move. Again, with the shoulder, they may be pointing up their shoulder areas of pain in the neck and the back, but they can't move it during the physical examination. The knee, they may be sitting with their knee flexed 90 degrees in a normal chair. During the physical examination, they can barely move the knee. The hip, they may be sitting in a normal chair with the hip flexed 90. They can barely move it during the physical examination. These are inconsistencies that you need to note. You may walk into your office and out of your office normally, but during the physical examination, they can barely walk. These are very important inconsistencies. These things always have to link up. And again, if you can barely bend the knee and the imaging is normal, doesn't make sense. You can barely bend the hip, imaging is normal, doesn't make sense. Consider all these things, they should be linked up. Hope this helps you. Good luck with your reports.